Is there any evidence for any gods? No, at least not so far. Is there evidence that the religious are delusional? Absolutely. There's no denying that. So, are we going to get the former today, or are we going to get the latter? The odds seem to suggest the delusional bit, but hey, let's go take a look and see. We could be wrong. And pigs might fly out of my ass, you never know. So, we're going to look at Pastor Michael Grant, who popped up in my feed with, "Is there evidence for the existence of God?" And I'm going to go out on a limb here and say, no, but hey, what do I know, right? I haven't seen the video yet, and I might have to give him the benefit of the doubt, except we've seen thousands of these things, and every single one of them has been bad. So, will this just be more of the same? I don't know. Let's go watch. Don't get your hopes up because, religion. So, away we go.
Hello and thank you for watching. Is there proof for the existence of God? I believe that there is, and in this video we're going to be looking at 3 pieces of evidence for the existence of God, and it's very simple.
Hey, at least you didn't say evidences, so I guess that's something. Now, we know that he's not going to give any actual evidence here because none of them ever do. He'll get his chance, of course, but they don't understand what evidence is. Evidence, by its very nature, has to be something that you can show to someone else, such that they can examine it for themselves without having to have a pre-existing belief in anything about it first. That's where most of this goes wrong. Secondly, it has to point directly to a particular conclusion. It can't be something that a Christian will say, "That's God," and a Muslim will say, "That's Allah," and a Hindu will say, "That's Krishna," after having the exact same evidence presented. Third, the conclusion must be demonstrable. You have to be able to put the evidence to the test. You can't just say, "But I like it," as if that matters, because it doesn't. Nobody cares what you want to be true. So with those in mind, I think we know that he's not going to have anything that stands up to any kind of critical scrutiny. But hey, we're here already. Let's see where this goes.
Sometimes you watch these apologetic videos and there are deep philosophical arguments, but these are 3 simple pieces of evidence that there is a God and everybody knows it.
And that's going to be a problem moving forward if it means what it usually does. You don't just get to pretend that you know what other people know better than they know themselves. Fuck your stupid book. You can't simply insist that your book is true without actually proving that it is. Secondly, though, philosophical arguments will never prove that a real thing actually exists in the real world. You can't prove any God is real through philosophy. If that's where you're going, you've already lost. Give up. The reason the religious resort to philosophy is because they've got nothing else. Philosophy does nothing to demonstrate the real world. A God, if one exists, is part of or interacts with the real world, thus it needs science to prove that it's there, not philosophy. If you don't have the science, then you don't have anything at all. You just have faith in childish fifis, and that is never, ever, ever going to be enough. So with that all out of the way, let's see what he's got. Prepare to be vastly underwhelmed.
The first piece of evidence, the starry skies above.
Look at the trees! Yeah, this is dumber than I thought. Granted, he might finish up strong, but this doesn't prove anything at all but that there are stars or trees or whatever. That doesn't prove that a God is responsible. As I said before, the evidence needs to lead to a specific conclusion, and this one simply doesn't. There are stars. So what? That doesn't prove that any gods are involved. This is what they say when they're not talking to skeptics, which, let's be honest, they never are, right? And while we're here, let's pause for a second and look at his comments. He tells atheists to comment on his work. Then I will block you, but thanks again for your views and clicks. So he has no interest whatsoever in having an actual conversation. Why? Because he's afraid to be shown to be wrong. This guy is a prick right up front. I don't feel the need to block asshole Christians because I can defeat everything that they say. This guy, apparently, he's not very good at it, is he? And that's not really much of a surprise.
The second piece of evidence, the moral law within.
That's bullshit too. Because again, just saying you've got a moral intuition, which isn't supported by any evidence in any way, shape, or form, but hey, we can just pretend, that doesn't get you to any God. For the religious, God is just the automatic answer to any question that they don't have a really good answer for. When in doubt, God done it. But that's not how any of this works. You don't just get to jump to God done it because you really like the idea. For this to be evidence, he'd have to be able to demonstrate that his claim is verifiably true. Then he'd have to show that a real existing God is actually responsible. And how many people think he'll be able to do that? None? That's what I thought. Now, I'm sure he's going to try to justify all this down the road in some way. After all, if he doesn't, this is just going to be a really short video. So we'll just take it apart again in more detail when he gets there. Won't that be fun? No, probably not, but we're going to do it anyhow.
And the third piece of evidence is the scripture, the Bible itself.
So, you've got no evidence, do you? My book says a thing doesn't mean anything. This is empty claims and emotional assertions that get him absolutely nowhere of any value at all. The second that I saw that he was just going to ban anyone who disagreed, I pretty much knew where this was going. You have to already believe all the crap that he does, or you can't come to the conclusions that he really wants you to. He's not talking to us. He's not talking to anyone who might actually care about evidence for his imaginary friend. He's just preaching to the choir, like they all do, because he's a complete idiot. Why would you try to convince people who already believe to believe? Isn't that a complete waste of time? Yes, but this is what Christianity does. This is who they're trying to convince, and those people aren't that bright, are they?
So the first piece of evidence, the starry skies above, this is called natural revelation. So everybody knows that there is a God.
And I'll stop you right there because you're full of it. I mean, I could say everyone knows that there are invisible, intangible, star-creating pixies because, there the stars are. That doesn't get you anywhere, and anyone who believed that would be a complete moron because that isn't evidence for anything except your own gullibility. The reason these people fail so badly is because they know they've got nothing. If they could prove their gods were real, they'd have multiple Nobel Prizes, but instead they are complete laughingstocks to anybody with a brain in their heads. You can't just presume your conclusion before you can demonstrate your conclusion. But that's all the religious can do, right? Because they're really, really dumb. But we're not surprised by that or anything, are we?
We know there is a God simply by observing the creation.
That's just asserting that there is a creation without demonstrating that it's actually true. It doesn't matter what you believe. It doesn't matter what you have faith in. It matters what you can prove. This is the problem that they always have though, right? They start with the conclusion that they really want to be true because they're emotionally attached to it, and then they build their arguments backwards, specifically so that they can get back to where they really want to go. This is fallacious thinking 101, not that they care. He's also completely betrayed his own biases and proven that he's got nothing to show a skeptic, which are the only people who actually care if there is any evidence for his imaginary friend. This is only for the delusional idiots who already believe so that they can feel all warm and fuzzy inside and keep giving this idiot money. Because that's what it's always about, right?
The creation speaks to the fact that there is a creator.
And that's just a bald assertion for which you can provide no evidential support. It's completely circular. I mean, seriously, what is wrong with these imbeciles who keep doing this and can't see where they are going wrong? It's not like they haven't had it pointed out to them time and time again, right? This is what happens when you don't pay attention, and none of these people ever do. But I really want it to be true. Good for you. It's still a joke, but if you think your feelings and faith mean more than the facts and evidence, I really don't know what to tell you. You've got something seriously wrong with you upstairs. Seek help.
Psalm 19 verse 1 says, "The heavens declare the glory of God, and the firmament shows his handiwork."
My book says a thing. Nobody cares until you can prove your book is actually true, and that requires independent evidence that you simply don't have. It doesn't matter what sounds good to you, it matters what you can demonstrate, and you people aren't even trying. This is where I think it's valuable to look at their abject failures, because they all do this, right? Almost every last one of them pulls this shit at some point or another, and all for the exact same reasons. They are proving just how dumb they are. They are proving what a bunch of con artists they are. They don't take the Bible seriously, no matter what they pretend, because this isn't what Matthew 28:18 through 20 commands them to do. Go therefore and make disciples of all nations, etc., etc., etc. It doesn't say, preach to the people who already believe. It says, go convince the people who don't believe that all of this crap is true. But none of them are doing that, right? Why? Because this is all just a scam. Big surprise there.
So if you're walking down the street and you see a watch lying on the sidewalk, that watch is evidence, it's proof that there is a watchmaker.
Every time I think that he can't get any dumber, he proves me wrong. This is the kind of crap that you get from the religious. Now, I had to go and look this guy up, and trust me, with a generic name like his, that was a little difficult. His about at least helped narrow it down a little bit to the pastor at the Moore's Corner Church in Leverett, Massachusetts. Now, it's quite telling that in his about page, he's begging for money, providing his PayPal, and providing an address to send checks to his church, because that's what this is always about, isn't it? But just looking at the church, I think it's obvious what kind of bullshit he believes and preaches, since he has multiple men's services and events during the week, and absolutely nothing at all for women. So he's just an asshole. What a shock. Who didn't see that one coming, right?
Romans 1:20 says, "For since the creation of the world, his, God's, invisible attributes are clearly seen, being understood by the things that are made." That's us.
Nobody cares. Because as I say over and over and over again, nobody who isn't already a Christian cares about what it says in your silly book. So reading us verses won't do anything but make us roll our eyes. Granted, we don't pay him, and that's really all he's interested in, which is why he's making this ridiculous video in the first place. How about try to convert the non-believers, Pastor? You know, do what your own book commands you to do. But he'd have to have things that he definitely doesn't have, and he's obviously afraid of us anyhow, which is why he's deleting most of our comments and banning us so we don't deconvert his meal ticket. And that's another thing. This guy has almost 30,000 subscribers, yet this video has only been watched 1,000 times. Why can these people not get their own subscribers to watch the videos that they make? I'm willing to bet that the majority of those views are atheists who are just laughing at this dipshit. What the hell is wrong with these people? Somebody please let me know.
Even his eternal power and Godhead, so that they, mankind, is without excuse. Every single person, deep down, we know that there is a God.
That's bullshit, but they have to lie to themselves and others because otherwise they're just gonna feel bad. Everyone has to be just like they are, and for the people who aren't, Well, they are too. Just ask them. This has got to be one of the most ridiculous things that a theist could ever say, but a lot of them say it, don't they? They are so dumb that they don't even understand how dumb they are. Why is that? So I got curious again and went back to the church's website to look at pictures. But only in one does he really show how many people show up on Sunday morning, and who knows if that's typical. I was just wondering if he's like Steven Anderson, where he gets a handful of people to listen to his ridiculous screeds, but at least the church isn't in a strip mall, so I guess that's good. However, even in that picture, he's got fewer people than my old church got at random Sunday services, so really, who knows? Anyhow, that was really just an aside. Back to the religious stupidity.
Now, Romans 1 talks about how man suppresses that knowledge, and people choose instead to worship the creature rather than the creator. That's why you have paganism. I see these bumper stickers here in New England. They say, tree-hugging dirt worshiper. Well, what are these people doing? They're worshiping the creation itself rather than the creator.
Yeah, but I don't have any respect for those idiots either. Now, from here on out, if he's going to quote the Bible, we're just going to fast forward through it because my book says a thing is just laughable. He's clearly only doing this for his existing followers so he can extract the contents of their wallets. And that's not exactly a good thing, but they all do it, right? I thought he was supposed to be talking about evidence, but he isn't. He's just preaching to the choir. Here's the shit you already believe, so I don't actually have to prove anything because you're all just a bunch of dumb yokels without an operative brain cell between you. This is not how to impress anyone. It just isn't. This is why I keep pointing out that these people are ignoring the Great Commission. On purpose, I might add. They've already got most of the suckers that they're likely to fleece, and they're hanging on to them as hard as they can because otherwise they're just going to go out of business. They're not taking any of this crap seriously. If they were, they'd be doing outreach beyond their own walls and safe spaces. They don't do it because it's hard to find people dumb enough to take any of this stuff seriously these days, isn't it?
But people will worship idols, they'll worship animals, people worship other people. Sometimes people worship themselves. Even the New Age movement, teaches that you are a God. God is within you, or we are all part of the divine. Even pantheism, to some degree, teaches that, yes, we are all part of God.
And note how he doesn't mention atheists, at least not yet, although he seems to be mad at us and banning us because we're making him look bad. Atheism is the imaginary boogeymen that they make up in their heads because they can't deal with the actual reality. They don't know how to handle someone without the faith gene. Well, if you already believe one thing, maybe I can just talk you into believing mine. Nope. You can't do it. We don't believe anything without evidence, and the people who have faith, they don't care about evidence at all. They are just comforted thinking that there's some rational justification for their beliefs, even though there isn't any. So this idiot is just lying to them for a paycheck as if that's any surprise. But it really isn't, is it?
So this is the first piece of evidence that God exists. The starry skies above.
And it's crap. Because if what he said is true, then there doesn't need to be any evidence because everyone already believes because his book says a thing, no matter how stupid and demonstrably untrue that thing is. But see, here's the problem. Look at the trees only proves that there are trees. Look at the sky only proves that there is a sky. It doesn't prove any of the emotionally comforting bullshit that he wants to attach to it at all. Just because you really want it to be true, that doesn't make it true. You've got to prove it, and you're not even trying. That's the problem. These people aren't even trying. They are letting ignorance and wishful thinking do all of the heavy lifting, and that simply isn't enough. If you want to get from look at the trees, and I don't know why any of them would even try that anymore, because all that ever happens is everybody just laughs at them. But if you have to show that your specific God is a rational answer to your claims, you have to be able to do better than that. But they can't actually do anything that they claim they can do. But I really want it to be true doesn't mean anything. Stop making fools of yourselves. You're not helping your case.
But unfortunately, people distort and corrupt, suppress that knowledge. Now let's look at point number 2.
And we'll do that next time. I'm figuring we'll devote one video to each of his points, depending on how this shakes out. Honestly, I wasn't expecting this to be quite this stupid, but I guess I should have, right? This is how all of them are. Every single last one of them, because all of them are doing the exact same thing. They're not talking to atheists. They are terrified of atheists. We don't pay them, and this is all about making a buck. That's how it's always been. Because these people wouldn't know how to talk to an atheist if their lives depended on it. They have no clue what's going on out there in the real world because they spend all of their time in their own safe spaces where reality dare not intrude. That's why I keep looking for any theist, any apologist, any theologian, anyone who doesn't pull this crap. And I don't think they exist. Nobody has any rational reasons to believe. They just have faith in fifis, and if that's all you got to rely on, you're an idiot. This is why religion is such a mess, and why we spend all of our time laughing at these morons, because that's all they are. There's no excuse for that. There's no rationalizing your way around it. These people are mental midgets who are terrified of the real world, because it doesn't make them happy. If your entire life is nothing more than, I've got to be happy all the time, then there's something seriously wrong with you. Grow up. Otherwise, you look like this dipshit, and that is not a good thing.